morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Economy, Infrastructure and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee today on Thursday, the 25th of September 2025 at 10 a.m. I'd now like to invite Jacob to give apologies, please.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Committee. Apologies received from Councillor Bentley and Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Jacob. Are there any declarations of interest in the room? No. Thank you very much indeed. Usual reminders, please, about mobile phones on silent and computers on silent as well. And next, item 3, I'd like to resolve that the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 22nd July 2025 be confirmed as a correct record and signed by the Chair. Please could I invite someone to move this motion?
I'll move the motion.
Invite someone to second this motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll take that as a okay and sign accordingly. Thank you very much indeed. Item 4. Now I'd like to consider the following petition entitled Let's Get a Pump Track Built in Burntwood. And I'd like to invite the petition organiser, Rachel Stackhouse, to present. You have a 5-minute time slot regarding the petition, please. Thank you very much indeed. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Rachel Stackhouse and I'm a mum who has been campaigning for a pump track to be built in Burntwood for over the past 2 years with my friend Zara Thompson, who sends her apologies today as she's unable to attend. My inspiration for the campaign came from my 10-year-old son Jamie, who loves anything with wheels, especially his bike. He has been riding since the age of 2. Riding his bike has helped Jamie develop confidence, self-esteem and a real passion for cycling. I believe we need to encourage outdoor activity now more than ever, as I feel as though we are becoming a society which is losing its confidence for social interaction through the overuse of phones and gaming. Burntwood desperately lacks facilities. So I thought to myself, let's try and do something about it, and researched what a great asset a pump track could be. Both myself and Zara have dedicated our time to try and highlight what a pump track is, and have arranged numerous promotional activities across Burntwood, engaging the locals and wider community to see this vision. The journey so far includes over 900 members on our Facebook lobbying group, distributing leaflets, school surveys, continuously promoting the campaign on social media, free BMX sessions, promotional stalls, bike marking with the local PCSO, free bike checks, a petition with 2,508 signatures, campaign videos, a pump track design competition, newspaper articles, free bike obstacle sessions and a written business plan. I have documented some of this along with supporting evidence and brought it along with me today. It would be nice if you could see the hard work and passion that has been put into this campaign. Through this journey, we have brought so many people on board with us, far and wide, reaching thousands of people both face-to-face and online. So, you may be wondering what a pump track is. A pump track is a looped circle of rollers, bank turns and features designed for riders to pump by generating momentum using up and down body movements. It's suitable for all ages and skill levels and can be used by bikes, scooters and skateboards and roller skates. Why Chasewater? Chasewater is the perfect location. It's a stunning, natural beauty spot, centrally located with existing facilities like toilets, car parking, a cafe and no roads nearby, making it a safe space for families. The estimated cost to build a state-of-the-art pump track would be £300,000, using the proposed location to its full potential. This isn't just a cost, it's an investment which could be through increased footfall, cafe and parking sales, events and possible opportunities like bike hire. A pump track brings real community benefits. It gives people of all ages and abilities a space to be active, creative and feel part of a positive community bubble. It can help reduce antisocial behaviour by providing a space where youth can engage constructively. It supports inclusion. Children with special educational needs often thrive in these environments, building confidence and coordination. It creates a free, healthy, active space that encourages outdoor exercise for everyone. If built to UCI standards, the track could also host official pump track qualifiers, attracting visitors and putting Chasewater on the map nationally. Local businesses would benefit too. For instance, Peak Education, based near Chasewater Sailing Club, could incorporate it into their alternative learning programmes. Schools, youth groups and BMX clubs would have a new facility for training sessions and events. Health and safety would be a priority, with appropriate signage clearly stating use at your own risk. Option to install flood lighting and fencing, and use of the CCTV to keep the area safe. Respecting and supporting the environment, protecting existing habitats and even creating new ones, ensuring minimal disruption. The great thing about pump tracks is that they are very low maintenance when using asphalt, as they can last for many years to come. Track design is key, and using expert contractors like Velo Solutions is a must. There could also be an opportunity to provide an adapted track for wheelchair users, which also can be used as a learn-to-ride area. It is clearly evidenced all over the UK the significant positive impacts pump tracks are having and how popular they have become. So, let's get a pump track in Burntwood and bring this vision alive. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much indeed. Really enjoyed the presentation. Can you just confirm, please, Rachel, that you've had sufficient opportunity to present the petition today?
Yes, I have, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to invite local member, Councillor Andrew Clissett, who will also have 5 minutes to speak on the same item. Thank you.
Chair, colleagues, I thank you for the opportunity to speak today at the committee. Just wanted to start with saying a huge well done to Rachel and Sarah for bringing it to the committee today, and the actual work that's gone in, not only just harnessing the people's thoughts and objectives around, you know, what they want in Burntwood, but through my campaign and through the last 6 months of reviewing the campaign, I think it really does sit well and resonate with the residents, and this is what they're calling for. So when we look at a 2,500 petition, for me, you know, that's nearly over 8.9% of the current population of Burntwood. So it's definitely a demand that people want to see. I think through my own campaign, I looked at youth services, and youth services being deprived really in Burntwood. I know Lichfield District Council's done a hell of a lot in terms of getting certain elements, but the pump track is one of these services that creates youth services within Burntwood. And from my own personal experience, and I've got one of the bikes behind me here, just a balance bike. When I was 3, I had my first BMX bike. That bike had stabilisers on it. My parents, the first demand, I don't think I could talk actually at 3, but what I could do is I pointed at the stabilisers. I said, I don't want those on. For the first time that I ever got on a bike, I had no stabilisers on it. And back in the day, all we had was the street, just to ride up and down. For me, the thrills were about getting up on the seat, standing up, and using those skills as much as I could. But in terms of having a world-class facility like this in Burntwood, and for all the local community to be able to use, those skills and capabilities increase through utilisation. And I think it was key for me around the balance bit and the balance bike, because now it helps me in my life, save my life on a motorcycle when I get a chance to go out on a Sunday morning. I still think these life skills are important. Fast forwarding to today, I think obviously the balance bikes, like the Strider, it helps develop the core skills. I'm not going to go back over the pump track, but when you look at different facilities, you've got the dirt track that we've already got in Burntwood Park, and not to be, you know, misunderstood between a dirt track, a pump track, and then a BMX track. So kind of those tiers, one in spend, but also 2 in facilities. In terms of the pump track, it's up to 2 metres high, down to 0.2 metres. So a lot of scope in terms of control and performance there. It also, I think, inclusion-wise, brings a huge element of age groups. And when we look at specific numbers, about 7,000 people out of 28,000 there are under the age of 25, so real good population usage. We've got 600,000 a year currently at Chasewater visiting. I think in terms of the numbers, if 100 people use the track a day, then that would increase the number by 58%, just as basically an area where people would visit, and then that would increase the volume of footfall. One, commercially, that would support Chasewater, but it would also put it on a destination map. When we also look at where this is located and the perfection of geography, the fact is that it's a great location because I think the nearest ones or pump tracks within the vicinity, there's one in Whittington, one in Pye Green, and one in Stoke, but nothing around the Brown Hills, Lichfield area where we can see that would be used. I think it's important we get it right first time, and this is why the 300,000 to 250,000 request for the build is that we do it right, and we hit the community's expectations. I think we've seen some examples where in Burntwood Leisure Centre where currently we're seeing issues with areas struggling around attracting usage, one the skate park and also the climbing wall. Again, we want to make sure this is successful. In terms of residents, we've had a couple of people come through, so it's about saving lives. Real looking at making sure that people feel confident, included and connected, but also one resident actually said one young person found a track that gave them purpose when they were at the lowest. So I think it's, again, social and also behaviours for young children. It really brings out the positiveness. In terms of sustainability, I think we've got a plan around all-weather track. We spoke about the CCTV fencing and obviously a bit about biodiversity groups involved. I think in terms of my summary and closing here, community demand is at 8.9%, and that's officially with 2,500 signatures. Economic value for money and returning investment, I think we can clearly see that would be the case. When we look at the UK, there's 220 pump tracks, nearly 2,500 worldwide, and where they have been put in place, there's over 84% backing of positiveness from the communities. So really inclusive for youth services. Let's get it, let's back it, let's build it, and let's get it right first time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clisset. Slightly more than the 5 minutes, but I sensed you're coming to a successful conclusion there, so extended it slightly for you. Thank you very much indeed. Two excellent presentations. I'd like to invite the committee to ask questions, seek clarifications on any of the points and items raised, please.
Thanks for the presentation. I just wondered what type of equipment can be used on this pump track. Like, it's not just that tiny bike there. There's other equipment that can be used, and I just want to go all through it and what different demographics can use it and all that.
Hi, yes, all sorts really. Mountain bikes, BMX bikes, skateboards, scooters, and if you're going to do a wheelchair adapted area, then wheelchairs and things like that, and bikes that are being adapted. And it's great as well because you can learn to ride here as well there, so obviously for beginners and things like that really. So it's very inclusive in that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I just wonder, it's not just, say, certain demographic. It's multiple age demographics can use it and different equipment, so it's useful in, for everyone who would go to Chasewater, so I'm happy with that.
I think just coming back on that as well, it's RC cars, so radio-controlled cars, other blue sky thinking of what these tracks are used for. And I think it's key that the track also potentially has a younger track formation and an older person track to have that utilisation. So it's not just about you know, the balance bikes here. It's many different elements that can be used on the track.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm really a fan of pump tracks involved in the development of the one in Newchapel. I think the ward member said in Stoke it's actually in Newcastle under Lyme and was funded through the town deal that we had for Kidsgrove, £60.5 million for improvements such as youth facilities and improving public spaces. So I'm a real fan of them, and I think the one in Newchapel did create was a national buzz. It was actually put on the map, and we were having people coming from Manchester and further afield, and it's still well used today, and it hasn't been vandalised. It hasn't been misused, and it's actually in the middle of an estate on a former green space. And before the pump track was put in place, the young people and kids from the area used to make their own out of soil and ramps and stuff. So when we had the money through the town deal, I think it was 250,000 at that stage to build it. What we're talking 6 or 7 years ago now. And I think it's a really good project. I think it's really good that it's come forward. It's just a question of, have you sought any funding through your group? Because obviously the question will be, where's the money going to come from for this facility? And then the ongoing maintenance costs. It isn't vandalised in Newchapel, but it needs to be continually maintained, cleaned, etc. And the car park maintained. I know Chasewater has its own car park, but we had to create one up in Newchapel. So it's just a question back to the group. You know, have they thought about where the funding is going to come from this? Is there any funding streams that they've tapped into to make this happen, or do they expect the county council to obviously find the money for this to build this, which is on county land, isn't it? But I think a really good project, and well done to the community for coming together on this, and it can be very, very well used and a good facility for your area.
Thank you. I don't know if you've got any comments on those particular points.
Yeah, I think it's important that the money comes from different funding facilities. At the 7 million, it's around about 4.28% that it would be at 300,000. But Rachel, if you just come in around companies that we've reached out to.
Hi, yes, there is other sources such as Biffa Waste, Scottish Power and Sports England. They do support these kind of projects. It would be a case of an official body really applying for the funding. Myself, I'm not an organisation, I'm just a member of the public. So that's why I'm coming to you guys, really.
Thank you. Councillor Hall, you had some questions as well.
Yeah, great job. I mean, my original question was about the funding, but I think you've answered that. But, I mean, Staffordshire's got a keen heritage of cycling, I would say. I mean, Cannock Chase is absolutely, I mean, it's immense. I mean, I've used it many, many times, and the Olympics were there as well. So I think, you know, that's you know, all power to you on that. I was just really wondering what the opinion of the park rangers is of it, or, you know, when you've canvassed them, which I've noted he's been very thorough, so I've no doubt you've spoken to them. So, yeah, I'd just be interested to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're fortunate actually to meet the park ranger at Chasewater and be invited there for spending about 4 or 5 hours, I think, walking around with 3 of our councillors. What came apparent was the area that we located within the platform and picture was about 900 square metres towards the left-hand side as you come through the car park. So kind of tucked out the way. And then when we did ask the question, you know, to the park ranger, I think a lot of people were demanding that they had a facility like that, and there was actually, you know, no resistance from him on the day and talking about that. I think more than anything, it brings footfall, and it really puts Chasewater on the map. You know, currently when we walked around, there's just so much potential there, really, and the fact that we've got the space as well, that 900 square metre. We wouldn't need to use all of that, would we, on that? So, again, we have looked at other locations in Burntwood, especially the other parks, but they're district council led, and also the fact is they probably haven't got the right space, ideally, for the pump track. And again, you know, Chasewater brings it onto the map. So I hope that answers the question.
Any further questions to ask? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And I do echo the support generally for such a pump track. I'd probably use it myself. Do I need to declare an interest? Maybe. I don't live in Burntwood. I live in Burton, so I probably wouldn't travel all that way. But the comments are made are fine. They're probably not massively helpful because we are not a decision-making body that can grant funding or do that sort of thing. But what this does do is raise the profile of your issue. So for that, you know, this is a good thing to do. Small bit of guidance, probably you need to take this issue to the County Council's Cabinet, which is the decision-making body of the council, and you need to make your case to secure funding in future years. And they will then have to consider that in the midst of all of the other pressures on funding from a county council perspective. I don't think you probably have an issue with land and placement. I suspect the county council would probably be quite happy to support that. It's the funding that's probably the issue, although I may be mistaken. You probably have done this already, but I'd directly contact Lichfield District Council if it is in Lichfield. I know it's in Burntwood, but I believe that's the district council that covers that area. I would ask their cabinet to consider it from a leisure perspective because they might also support that from a funding point of view, and Burntwood Town Council. And I would try to secure a meeting with them to try and get a sort of a joint collaborative view where you can secure funding from multiple parties to make it work. But it's very, very difficult. And I would also contact the MP because I think the Kidsgrove pump track was something that the MP sponsored quite heavily and was very instrumental in ensuring that was delivered. So I would go down those lines. It's probably a tricky road, but I wish you the best of success. Thank you.
Hi, well, I have been campaigning for 2 years and I have been to Lichfield District Council and Burntwood Council and I have met with many MPs. I've met with Dave Robertson, I've met with all the local councillors of Burntwood and spoke about this and they told me to come to you guys and that's what I'm here today for. So, but I'm like getting passed from pillar to post and obviously we're really passionate about this. We need more for the youth to do. And this is something great. You know, it's not just for youth, it's for all generations, you know. And the positive impacts that they have, you know, you can just take a look on Google, really. It's just there, really. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the comments, Councillor. That was one step ahead, actually, because we're going to decide upon our course of action in a couple of items. But prior to doing that, so we'll discuss the actions that the committee is going to take thereafter and the extra information that we do need, so I appreciate that. But in the interim period, if we could invite Sarah Bentley, Head of Environment and Countryside, and Councillor Hayley Coles, Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, to have 5 minutes each to respond on the issues raised, and then we'll move on to the next item, which is indeed the further action that we need to take as appropriate. Thank you very much.
All right, morning everybody. We have had a few emails about this and discussions, so we are welcome to this, the pump track and the idea, and we recognise the value it brings to the community of Burntwood as well. You know, recognising that you have looked at other locations, this is a potential area. So, sorry, it's just going off, but it's at an interesting time because we're actually reviewing and in feasibility stages at the moment for improving the area of Cannock Chase and Chase Water. So there's multiple ideas, as you can imagine, and a lot of scoping going on at the moment, which is very much dependent on funding, you know, as has been echoed around the room. So we are keen on it. Martin Murray, the deputy leader, and myself actually went to the Friends of Chase Water the other weekend, and we spoke to them and local businesses there. And again, they're all open to it, so this is good news. But as you can imagine, we're only really part way through this work, so we don't want to be able to say yes for sure because we can't, because there's so many variables on how we might improve chase water for local residents and for visitors further afield. So we have actually flagged the pump track because we know this has been going on for a while with the project team, which obviously Sarah can go into a bit more detail about that, but Sarah's been working on chase water and everything for a much longer time than I have in the last few months. So yeah, it's at a very, very relatively early stage, so there's no commitment there. But we also have a lot of, as I say, a lot of work going on with that. And the next stage that we're looking at is public engagement, because I think the last time that the public was engaged on chase water, etc., was quite a few years ago. I think it was 2018 now. And one of the things I'm quite keen on is actually to look at the younger generation, teenagers, because I do feel we have got antisocial behaviour increasing. We haven't got the youth club facilities, so I'm quite keen on it as well. If Sarah would like to add any more to that.
Yes, thank you. So just to confirm, we have got feasibility work ongoing at the moment, looking at a sort of a wider master plan for chase water, and looking at a whole range of different options of how we develop a really sort of economically viable proposition for chase water that's going to sort of see it into the future. The pub track is very much on our minds, and so you have done a fantastic job with the petition and the sort of local campaigning. So the project team are very aware of the pump track and looking at that as part of the mix of options being considered around how we build that sort of redevelopment for chase water, and then looking at the funding and how that will go forward. So it's really difficult to say at the moment. Chase water, although it's quite a big site, there's not a huge amount of usable space within it. Obviously, most of it is water, and then a lot of it is protected sort of wildlife habitat as well, where we have very limited options of what we can do. So we're very much sort of focusing on how we can treat the south shore of chase water, how we can sort of develop that area in particular. So it's very much in the mix at the moment, but until that work is concluded, it's not really possible to sort of say more at this stage.
Thank you very much indeed for that. At this stage as a committee, we effectively need to just look at three areas, picking up the point that's just been made there and also what Councillor Wyman just said. Sort of various views we need to look at. One is, do we require further action, no further action, or do we need to look at a working group to discover the mechanisms to investigate the issues raised in more detail? In other words, to put together a lot more information on the case, or indeed refer the matter directly to the Cabinet with recommendations for considerations. So interested in views in terms of action points.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think when we're looking at those actions, I think taking no further action, I think is not an option, because we've seen obviously our officers are already looking into this. The portfolio holder is quite happy to take this forward, considering obviously the barriers of funding, etc., that we need to go through. I think a working group, I think we've no need for that, because I think the group have done a lot of work on this. It looks like with the ward members, division member as well, working on this. I think referring to Cabinet is probably the best way, because we, as Connor said, we're not a money holding group here as a scrutiny committee, but the Cabinet are. So, and as the portfolio said, she's balancing loads of different funding pressures at the moment, and this one would go in the pot, I assume, with that, and be waged against the other priorities. And also, I think bringing that funding in we talked about. As you say, your group isn't in a position to bring in the money, so I think through the County Council being able to apply for funding, and other councils, as Connor said as well, that's probably the best route forward. So I would support referring to Cabinet. I think the last one about delegating to an officer, I think that would be part of a Cabinet report anyway. So I think probably I'd go for number 3 and would probably propose that be adopted by the committee, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's going to be a master plan for chase water, and this has got to form part of that. I mean, we can't kind of go it alone with this as a standalone project. I mean, it'd be kind of crazy to do that. So, but of course, then the concern is how long is that going to take, and how long has it already taken? I believe the funding is still in place, or a certain amount of funding, 7.2 million, I don't know, something like that. So I think that's my concern, that how quickly can we move forward, I suppose, with the master plan for the whole site. And I do think that this should form part of that, but it doesn't make any sense to do it on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to summarise, I agree with Councillor Tagg. I think the recommendation, from my perspective, would be to refer directly to Cabinet for consideration. But I'd just like a show of hands if everyone's in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Okay. If we agree, therefore, to take it to Cabinet, as a committee, we discussed it, deliberated the issues, and the recommendation is that we take... Sorry.
That's okay. I thought it'd be useful actually because I do. Some of the feedback we got before was that Chasewater feel like they haven't had things move along, so we're quite keen to get things moving along. So just to reassure you, we've got an investment board that we've been meeting with ever since we stepped foot in the building, really, on looking at all of the countryside Chasewater, Cannock Chase. So you can imagine there's a lot to consider in there, and how we use the funding. There might be more funding required, as you can imagine. So just to reassure you, we are already in process of doing that. We've already outlined a lot of feasibility studies, and we're in process to do that. So it is due to be going through Cabinet for early 2027, which might sound a long way away, but there's more complexity in Chasewater than you would realise with the protected area, the dam. There's lots of things we've got to look at the moment that are quite complex. But yeah, just to reassure you, that is our intent, and if we can do it any earlier, I will try and do that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Coles. So can we just agree that that's the next step on this, to refer to Cabinet? And if I could invite someone to move that motion, please. Second that motion. Thank you very much. So that's confirmed that we're taking that one to Cabinet, and thank you very much indeed for your presentations. Very good indeed. Are you staying around because we're moving on to the next item on the agenda now? Are you vacating? I'll just chip that off while you. Don't know whether we should kick off again because Jacob's disappeared, but I'll just give him another few minutes to come back. That's okay. We're just waiting for his return, Jacob. Right, just move on to item 5 on the agenda now. Cabinet member Councillor Coles is to present on the Joint Archives Services Annual Report. Thank you very much indeed. The floor is yours.
So the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have been asked to look at the Joint Archive Service, which is provided by ourselves, Stafford County Council and Stoke-on-Trent City Council. This has been in place since 1997. So the Heritage Service is not part of the joint agreement. It's delivered through the Archive Service itself. And then along with the Staffordshire History Centre is the basis for that work. So there's a lot of cold storage, archives, a lot of history that's held there. So the requirement of the joint agreement is to bring the annual report of the Joint Archives Committee at its June's meeting, which was done on the 26th of June, which we attended, and it was recommended a report was brought to Overview and Scrutiny. The committee is asked to comment on the work of the service and its performance, And I'm now going to hand over to Joanna Terry, who will take you through the report using the presentation. Thank you.
It's not moving on.
Technology. Click it at the screen there.
Click it at the
That
screen.
one,
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Joanna Terry, Head of the Archives and Heritage Service and Lead for Culture. So in the report that you've received, there's a really detailed annual report at Appendix 1, and it covers all aspects of the work of the service, so both the Joint Archive Service and the Heritage Service for Staffordshire. So the really key highlights of the work in the last year for 2024-25 have been the move of both the City Archives in Stoke to the Potteries Museum and Art Gallery and the opening of the Staffordshire History Centre last November. So since opening, the History Centre has received over 13,000 visits, and that's up to August 2025. And the summer programme was this year was a real opportunity to test the family offer. We had family fun days, activities specifically for the school holidays that were linked to our exhibitions, and we have crafts linking to the library's summer reading challenge theme as well. It doesn't like me. No, it's gone back.
I'll do it if you want.
Thank you. Sorry, I seem to have a clicker problem. So our core work is around the collections and providing access to them through in-person visits to our 2 service points in Stoke and Stafford, and through enquiries and remote access where we provide copies of collections for people. And we also catalogue our collections, and we receive many new acquisitions throughout the year. Much of this work is supported by volunteers working alongside staff to provide a really high quality service. So in the last year, we've been really limited in the amount of new archive collections we could take in due to constraints of space, whilst our new storage was built at both Stafford and Stoke. But we still responded to urgent requests to deposit so that we can safeguard at-risk collections. And the county museums continue to collect as normal, taking in a wide range of objects, photos and ephemera. So an example of 2 types of deposits that we've received, as the picture on your left, is from Stafford Market. So with the closure of the market hall for building work, we received plans, ledgers, administrative files and photographs. And then at Stoke, the sort of really highlight of their collections are the ceramic collections, the ceramic archive collections. And they received some more items for the Shelley pottery firm and Intarsio pattern book. So in total, we added 10 new shelves worth of archives at Staffordshire and 51 accessions at Stoke. All of the collections, when they come into us, get some form of description through our online catalogue so that people can find them. So they get a top-level description, and then over time we add to that to make a more detailed description. So in addition, the service engages wider audiences through touring exhibitions, events on-site and off-site, and a range of targeted projects. So this year, the service developed and toured 2 large exhibitions and 3 smaller ones, and in total there were 12 appearances at 11 different venues. So Beneath Our Feet, that explored the industrial and agricultural heritage of Staffordshire. Leak to Llandudno covered the history of holidays and leisure for local residents. I think it is still at the ancient High House if you haven't seen it. And we work with external design companies and our staff to create really engaging and attractive displays. The 2 smaller exhibitions were legacies of projects run with university partners. So Knowing Your Onions was co-curated by children at a holiday scheme in Tamworth and individuals with Eastern European heritage, and it used food and recipes to explore identity, heritage and belonging. And then we had 2 exhibitions at the Staffordshire History Centre. A Case for the Ordinary had been a tour and exhibition about our county asylums, of which we hold the archives. And then A Brush with Faith was the second exhibition, which was about J.L. Pettit, a local watercolour artist. And in total, those exhibitions were visited by over 55,000 people. So our volunteers are hugely important to what we do. We could not do anything like as much as we do without them. And they work in a variety of roles across the service. So at the Staffordshire History Centre, they support indexing and enhancing those catalogue descriptions. They also help to add more items to the Staffordshire Past Track website. That's a digital image site. They create new indexes that go onto our Staffordshire Name Indexes website, and that helps people locate their family information or local history information. And they also help us to preserve and repackage collections. And then a new role is that we have a visitor welcome role at the History Centre, and they provide a really warm welcome for people. At Stoke, the volunteer activities range from they helped with the move in shelving boxes. They also help with indexing and cataloguing and conservation, cleaning and research. And at the end of the year, we've got a project on the Minton Maiolica collection, and the volunteers and staff received training from our conservator, and they've now started on a programme to clean the artwork over the next 2 years. All of our volunteers are invited to annual thank you events to show them how much we appreciate their support. And if you use the National Lottery Heritage Fund calculation of £20 per hour for volunteer rate, then their contribution in kind is worth over £100,000 for the service. So we collect a large amount of statistics and we measure performance against key targets. So against the use of the service online and in person, attendance to events, the number of volunteer hours and customer satisfaction through using archive sector surveys. Also the use of the collections by measuring how many items we produce for research and how many items are on display. So the performance for visits in-person use has gone up dramatically, and that's because essentially before this year we were effectively closed to most research except for legal and time-limited requests. So we went from a total of 47 visits the previous year to 7,909 because both services reopened. So if you take that back to the last sort of proper year we were fully open, which was 2019-20 before the COVID pandemic, then we had in total there 5,431 visits. So if you compare it to that, which is a more typical year, it's a 45.6% increase. The number of documents we produced went up by 222%, but the number of items on display decreased by 69%, and that's because some items were returned from loan. Our online services varied. We have several different platforms. So on our main website, on the County Council pages, they went down by 5.13%, but visits to our online catalogue went up by 190%, and our name indexes site went up by 7.2%. Attendances at all our sort of events and talks increased by 16.7%, and our volunteer hours increased by 13.45% because they were able to return to our sites and support us. We also had a really successful recruitment campaign in February for the History Centre. We took part in a National Archive customer survey in autumn 2024. So Stoke-on-Trent was able to participate fully because they were already open, but this coincided with when we were opening the History Centre, so we were only able to partially participate. It used to ask for an overall satisfaction rating on quality of the service, but now it doesn't ask that question. So we took the results for quality and appropriateness of staff advice, and on average 94.5% of respondents scored the staff advice a 10. So the risk register is Appendix 2 to the report, and we're required to have one as recommended by our internal audit team. That's reviewed annually by the Joint Archives Committee. So we have a number of risks relating to our collections, to staff, public, volunteers that use the service, how we operate the service, and forward planning. So out of those risks, there's one red risk, which it relates to digital services. So we're in the process of implementing digital preservation software so we can take digital archives, and that is a requirement for us to meet our accreditations for the National Archives. We're also starting to plan to move our online catalogue software to a new platform. We've been impacted by capacity issues in the last year as we worked on a two major capital projects at the same time. So we're looking at the moment at a business case to look at how we resource these really important parts of our work moving forward. We also, again, at the request of the Joint Archives Committee, we do a benchmarking exercise. So we compare ourselves to near neighbours, and that's at Appendix 3 to the report. We use statistics published by the National Archives. They're our sector lead body. They were published in 2024, but the data they use is from 2022-2023, and when we were both sort of partially closed. Considering this, though, we compare really well on volunteers and dealing with enquiries and delivering events. We compare less well on the number of professional archivists that we employ. We have the lowest amount compared to our near neighbours, and that does impact on our cataloguing and digital preservation work. We have had lower number of website visitors. However, as part of the History Centre project, we did launch a new service website in November 2024, and we're sort of moving information across to that site and really building the site, so we'd look to see that improve next year. So I will hand you back to Hayley Coles to conclude.
Thank you for that, Joanna. So as you can see, last year has been a really significant time for the service. They successfully delivered a major transformation, moving the archives, putting in new archives as well. A lot of work has been going on, accessing the collections for people, and then renovating the History Centre. So a big thank you to Joanna and all of the team, because it's been a lot of hard work to get that done. And then you can see from the results, the engagement of visitors and the service has gone up as a result, considerably at 45%. The Stafford History Centre, if you haven't been to it, you must just pop round. It's literally just around there, and you can walk in. And the new City Archives and the Potteries Museum and the Art Gallery have obviously all been combined. And its service compares well, as you can see in the benchmark, into the neighbouring services. And as a county council, I think we're very proud of the offer we deliver for the Staffordshire residents. They received a lot of requests for the archives and museum services, and they've been able to show them and what's been achieved, so more people are interested in seeing how that's been done. The service has seen one of the leading ones for how to access the archives, and that can be delivered in a very creative and accessible way. And I was really pleased to share in the news that this summer the museum service is now fully accredited by the Arts Council England, which is a direct result of the History Centre opening. It means the services meet the required standard and is able to access certain external funding now for their work. At the Joint Archives Committee in June, I did ask for, bless them, they've got a lot of data there, more information about the data and metrics. So the team have updated the digital statistics and are working with the communications team to ensure they're collecting the most useful data, and that's just because of my background in marketing. And the service had a really successful summer programme, receiving over 2,122 visitors, 758 participants at events and activities on site, and 367 attendees to outreach events as well. And the team worked very closely with the comms team in Staffordshire County Council to promote their offer on social media. They're revisiting the marketing plans at the moment to ensure the offer is promoted more widely across the county. And I also have other ideas that we're potentially going to look at, which we'll reveal to you in time. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions, or for myself or Joanna. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Very intriguing and quite an eye-opener in terms of what is available there. I would imagine not everyone's aware of just what is available there. So thank you very much indeed. Any questions, Councillor Hall?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I didn't actually know that it existed. I live fairly locally, so yeah, I will be going there. I only realised when I started in this role, actually, when I saw it. But if I look at sort of the costs, it's quite difficult to split the costs really between the two sites for, I guess, a number of reasons. But if you look at the overall engagement per physical person visiting, it's something like £52 a person, which seems quite high. So I suppose my first question is, how can we increase the footfall to reduce that? And then secondly, if you look at the overall cost per digital sort of transaction, it's just over £2. So that's, you know, and I think that's been overwhelmingly successful with over 500,000, I think it was in the data. So it shows really that the future lies in a digital provision. So I suppose it's what steps are being taken to accelerate the digitalisation so the service can reach more people. So they're the two questions. Thank you.
So I think the first question was about the cost per visit method. So the if I take the example of the History Centre project, the renovations there, so in total it was 8.7 million, with 4.8 million received from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Of that, the biggest cost was in building the new storage. So that was over 2 million just to construct the new storage at the back of the site. And a lot of the cost for the service is providing the correct conditions for the archive collections and the museum collections. We have separate stores for the museum collections, because that's the way that you can ensure that they're going to be available, you know, sort of going forward for decades, hundreds of years. So that's where there's a lot of cost initially. The other place where there's cost is the work to make them available, so cataloguing them. So sometimes we will receive, for example, when the Magistrates Court closed in Stafford some years ago, we received over 100 boxes of records. So they come in massive bulk. We utilise volunteers to help us to catalogue them, but there's a lot of resource to actually make them available in terms of looking at those records, providing descriptions and putting that online so that people can visit. So that's where the sort of key costs are, the building costs to manage the collections and the staff costs to ensure that we can make them available. In terms of making the collections available digitally, we do that in a number of ways. So we've, in 2013, we digitised our parish registers, wills and marriage bonds and allegations. Those are the sort of top 3 sources for family history, and that's by far the most popular use of the service. So they were mounted online in 2013, which means that they're widely accessible to people either at home or where they do pay a subscription, or for free at our site and across our libraries in Staffordshire as well, so it's free to use. And we receive royalties from Find My Pass for doing that, and that income obviously helps support us to look after the collections. We're looking at extending that contract, so we're looking at other records that we could add to that offer. We also mentioned the Staffordshire Name Indexes site that volunteers provide indexes for. So we've got several indexes there, and that enables people to search. That's free to access that site, so people can look up their family or look up a place and get in touch with us to provide a copy. So that's extended access as well. Another part of the History Centre project is that we've actually now got a digitisation studio. The equipment was installed and made fully operational in the last couple of weeks. So that will enable us to in-house start to digitise more records. So those are just some of the plans that we've got going forward.
Thank you. I mean, if the records I was given were correct, I was probably talking about the operational costs, I suppose, rather than the initial, setup costs. But I mean, it's pleasing to hear about the, in-house digitalisation. I mean, that will. I mean, where do you think those numbers will be on digitalisation? I guess if you benchmark that perhaps against other authorities, do you going to see that going up considerably, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in the service for over 20 years, and when I arrived, there was no ancestry, no Find My Past, and we had people day after day laboriously checking by hand to find their ancestors. And then in 2005, when the first census was launched online, it just revolutionised access. And so it's gone up exponentially. So if you include our social media and our websites, it's like over 2 million, visits we get virtually. So I can only see that growing as there's more platforms and ways of engaging digitally, and people are much more plugged into that. They're more, we may think older people aren't digitally savvy. Well, they really are when it comes to family history. They absolutely skill themselves up and know where to look. So I imagine it would just continue to grow. I wouldn't like to put a figure on it. The reason I say that is that sometimes the metrics change. You'll notice in the report I said that there'd been a drop in social media, and then because there'd been a huge increase the year before, and it was down to one Facebook page on our Past Track site. Now there were exactly the same website visits pretty much, and we'd done exactly the same number of posts. So I think what happens sometimes is that the Google or Meta change the way they record visits, and it can suddenly shift them. So I would hesitate to make great claims about digital figures because they can just change inexplicably just because the way they're collected change. I mean, you might have more to say on that.
I mean, just on the social media and Facebook, we're starting to promote people more that paid for advertising, the way they all go, really, and you get pushed down. But as I mentioned before, because marketing is my background, we are looking at a full marketing plan. We've got other ideas of quite exciting archives that we're hoping to bring on board that would increase our footfall. We're looking at many different ways. We've even got a donation pod now where you can donate. So it's quite good because obviously when you go in and look with new eyes, you kind of walk into the shop front and say, it is amazing if you go in there, but like, oh, maybe we could make a more emphasis on the donation pod. So we are constantly looking at it. I walked around and spotted things. Obviously, you also have restrictions because it's statutory, and there's been a lot of interest over the William Salt Library because there's some people that didn't want it changed, so you've always got that. I think when you got into there that the building was much worse than you thought, so more costs came from that. So hopefully you would see the costs start to go down and the visitors go up. That is our plan, and that's what I'll be working on with the team.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Tagg. I'll just go to Councillor Jones. Thank you.
Yes, my question is, how did Staffordshire perform in the 2024 National Archives benchmarking exercise, and what insights were gained? How did Staffordshire perform in the 2024 National Archives benchmarking exercise, and what insights were gained? Thank you.
Yeah, so in the benchmarking report exercise, we compared ourselves to our near neighbours. So that was Cheshire, Derbyshire, Warwickshire, and it was a mixed picture. So we compared really well in terms of the number of volunteers that we engage and the hours that they give to our service, and we also performed really well on the in terms of engaging people at events. We did really well. We have fewer archivists than those services. We had the least number, so that is impacting on us moving forward with digital preservation at the moment. Despite that, because we've got a long really good track record around cataloguing our collections, we still rank really highly in terms of the amount of archives that you can search for in our online catalogue. You know, probably much better than our neighbours. But I think there's probably, as we've already touched on, probably more we can do digitally. Our website wasn't performing as well, but we have got a new website that we're still really yet to utilise the benefit of. We just launched ticketing through the website, so we don't have to use a platform like Eventbrite, which limits you. It charges you over a certain amount. We've got our own ticket system, and there are other things that we're adding on in terms of phase 2. So I say a mixed picture, but overall I think we do perform really well, and we are recognised as a really good service. I've had lots of other services visit us to see what we're doing. Cheshire have visited us, North East Wales have visited us, and then there's just this week someone from Teesside Archives visited us. So we are seen as, in the way we're delivering a really creative sort of joined up offer with our museum and archive as one of the leading services.
Is there a new strategic plan in development to replace the 2015-2025 vision, and will stakeholders be consulted, as always, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so we operate to a 3-year forward plan as part of the joint agreement with Stoke-on-Trent, and that was brought to the Joint Archives Committee at their meeting in March. So the annual report reports on the last sort of financial year. The work has already been done to create that new three-year forward plan, and that used sort of feedback from our friends groups and critical. We have a critical friends group as well as part of the project. So it was already approved at the committee in March this year.
Thank you. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a big fan of the History Centre. I had the pleasure of introducing report in spring to this committee. Obviously, been open for almost a year now in November, hasn't it? And you can see the success already in the report and the use of that £8.7 million investment from the National Lottery Fund. I think we see from the customer feedback, don't we, a overwhelmingly positive response from people. And also we've got the new activity room, haven't we, in the Williamsthorpe Library, which is a great facility for school visits and talks and exhibitions and other things. But I think for me the archives as well, we've got a world-class archive now, haven't we, there, which is protecting those records for future generations. I think that's where a lot of the money was spent, wasn't it, on putting those. I had a visit over there in the spring, and an amazing facility when you compare it with the existing archives, which is something like out of Indiana Jones, isn't it? When you go in there with all the maps all piled up, you think it's going to be some secret or in there or something. But the new ones are ultra modern, temperature controlled, and protecting our archives for future generations. I think also the digital offer, which I think is, as you say, is key now moving forward. And when you do market the archives, it is digital, isn't it? People accessing it from all over the world to find records of their families. And interesting that is coming along, well, and needs to expand further. One question I'd like to make is a point I made in the spring. Is obviously we don't sit in an island in the heritage world at the History Centre or the archives operation. We've got some very good museums up and around the country. I can plug the Newcastle Borough Museum in Brampton Park, which is an amazing facility looking to grow. Visitor numbers are up. Is the collaboration and joint working going on between the different museums in the county? And also, as I think we've touched on earlier, with larger organisations and national organisations. And I didn't see much of that in the presentation, but could you outline some of that and some of the future plans we've got to work with our other brilliant jewel in the crown museums that we've got across the county? Thank you.
Yeah, so there was information in the detailed annual report. I sort of selected just the key information for the presentation. Yes, we do. So one of the other things that we were able to create thanks to the National Lottery Heritage Fund support was the Staffordshire History Network. So we convene that network, and over 44 museums and heritage organisations work with us on that, and we offer events, about 4 or 5 events a year, moving around the county, and either it's an opportunity for a museum to share their knowledge and expertise, or we invite other experts in. So we've invited experts on conservation or handling of items, so that the network is able to learn as a group and a cohort on how to look after collections and provide access. We definitely do work with the bigger museums as well, and we've certainly got a really good relationship with the Brampton Museum. So we have had some of our touring exhibitions at Brampton, and they have recently been in touch saying, can we have some more, please? We've also toured to the High House in Stafford, and we used to send exhibitions to the Museum of Cannock Chase as well, until unfortunately that closed earlier this year. So in terms of moving forward, we'd look to sort of build on that network and work with them. We obviously work with Stoke-on-Trent Museum too, because we've got the City Archives located there. Now they're actually in the museum, they provide sort of joint displays. It's really nice to see the ceramics and the archives displayed together. And yeah, we work with the region as well. We're a member of an organisation called Archives West Midlands. So that's a charity of about 15 archive services in the region, and we collaborate together to work on things like, we've worked on digital preservation, we've worked on tools for ensuring inclusivity in archives, and earlier in September we were really pleased to host their AGM, where the new keeper at the National Archives attended that, Saul Nass, so he had a tour of our facility as well. So yeah, I think we're really well connected.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further questions at all or comments? I beg your pardon. Yeah, in actual fact, something I was going to comment on as well, speaking as a resident, not just a councillor, is I wasn't aware of any of this, I have to say. I am now, and it is outstanding. So just again, speaking as a resident, I think the marketing of the outstanding information and stuff we have here would be well received, I imagine, and just get the message out a little bit more in terms of people getting to know about it. But, thank you. Just move on and just recommend as a committee we've received and commented on the... What's another question?
Could I just answer?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, like I said before, because marketing is what I've done for many, many years, that's why I've asked them to look at more detailed metrics, so it gives us much better insights on how it's really being shared, how it's working. We are working now on a marketing plan with the team. I mean, even something as silly as if you put in the history centre on your Google Maps walk-in, it takes you around the other entrance. And to change that with Google Maps is a nightmare, but it's things like that we need to do. There's things on the website that are meta tags that we can look at and make sure they're optimised, and it's working with those partners as well. So there will be a lot more work done on that, and also trying to transform it and look into the best pastures, even places like the York Vic Centre in York. So there's lots of examples that we can look to improve that. And on a final note, I would invite you to all come and have a tour. So just reach out to us and we can organise that, because it's worth understanding and probably seeing the cold store as well, because that's literally only just been finished, and the temperature has to be an exact temperature, because obviously you can ruin things if it gets damp, nightmare. So, and obviously with the heat that's just happened, that was very unexpected. And there's things like that you don't see behind the scenes that then suddenly they've got to work out, can we cool it? They're looking at putting solar panels on the roof to cool it down and then provide some more electricity. There's lots of things that they're looking at. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Taggart.
Thank you. Just one point. I think we were asked to look at the risk log, as well. And just on that point, I think to do with protection, and is that obviously the flood risk and the CCTV and all of the other detection devices you've got in place. We've had a very wet start to the autumn, haven't we? And I know the extension has moved it probably further towards the floodplain area here in Stafford. Was there any issues? And if so, did the mechanism and safety detection that's placed in Stoke work properly, or is it yet to be tested by enough rain this autumn? Probably will be later in the winter.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. We have inched further towards the floodplain in Stafford. Most of the storage, the original storage is first floor and above. The new store does have a ground floor. However, it is still quite raised up off the ground. So no, there were no problems. In terms of Stoke-on-Trent, because that's adapting an existing store, the issues are around pipes nearby. So the flood detection did work, and those issues are sort of being investigated in Stoke and mitigated against.
Thank you. Just make sure I'm not missing any again, because I have a bit of missing hands up, so apologies about that. So just moving on, we've received and commented on the annual report. Thank you very much indeed. Received and commented on the risk register. Received and commented on the benchmarking comparison exercise. Just final point, I'd like to invite Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture to provide an update in a year's time. Anyone else any further recommendations following on from that? In which case I'd like to invite someone to move that motion and second this motion. Thank you very much. Jacob. Item 6, update the work programme, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few things, but before I do the work programme, actually, first off, I've noticed Councillor Jones has walked into the room. I gave apologies, so apologies for those apologies. I will correct the record in that respect. In terms of the site visit to Staffordshire Highways Lab, that will be at 1 o'clock today. My assumption is, given the relatively short distance, that most of you will be walking, but if you are attending, could you just hang about for 1 minute and we'll discuss the logistics of that. And also, just on the petition, it's worth mentioning that the recommendation agreed will be fed back to the meeting on the 23rd of October as well, for the record, as required by the Constitution. So in terms of changes to the work programme, the Community Learning Self-Assessment Report Annual Update has been scheduled for the 17th of November. The report of the Network Management Working Group, this item has been moved from the 18th of December to the 17th of November, and this condensed timeline was agreed with the Chair, Councillor Wildman, to allow feedback from the working group to then feed into the Traffic and Network Management Plan, which will now be presented to committee on the 29th of January. This item is actually slightly out of date already because the library service or library strategy item was removed from the agenda for the 25th of September. I can now confirm it will be received by scrutiny on the 18th of December, and that will be reflected in the next work programme item for the meeting in October. In addition, relating to the meeting on the 23rd of October, it was originally scheduled for 10 a.m. It has been moved to 2 p.m. because there is an extraordinary council meeting to discuss local government reorganisation. And finally, just to add that Councillor Bentley, in that period, was also added to the membership of the Network Management Working Group.
Thank you, Jacob. There's no exclusions of the public items on today's agenda. So just following up on what Jacob said, just confirm the date and time of the next meeting, Thursday 23rd of October 2025, 2 p.m. County Buildings. Draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers. Okay.